Hello and welcome to Straight Talk, Supply Chain Insights, the podcast for your supply chain leader who is on the go and wants to be in the know. And now, your host, Lora Cecere.
Welcome to Straight Talk with Supply Chain Insights. My name is Lora Cecere. I'm the founder of Supply Chain Insights, and this podcast is designed for the supply chain leader who's on the go and wants to be in the know. Today I'm interviewing Tony Rossi and John Brine, who are with Sleep Number, and Sleep Number was one of the winners, one of the 23 companies that won the Supply Chains to Award this year. And the Supply Chains to Admire Award is based upon performance and improvement within a category. So they won for furniture and home apparel. So gentlemen, introduce yourself and let's talk a little bit about why you think you won. Let's start with some introductions.
Sure. So I'm Tony Rossi. I'm the VP of Supply Chain Optimization. My sleep number is 45, and my sleep IQ last night was a 70. I run a group here that does a lot of optimization projects, digitization, supply chain strategy.
Hey, Laura. This is John Brine. My sleep number setting is a 35, and last night I beat Tony, and I had a sleep IQ score of 82, so slept pretty good. I'm the Director of Supply Chain Digitization and work within Tony's organization here to really focus on digital innovations for simple and scalable business solutions that drive actual impact to our customer and our employees.
So this isn't on your list of questions, but I know you can knock it out of the park. So you talked about your sleep number and then your sleep quality. You know, you've really redesigned your supply chain around those numbers, but I'm not sure people know what those mean. So let's just spend a minute because it's really at the core of your brand. What does that mean?
Sure. So our sleep number is really a number that indicates the firmness of our bed. Our beds are adjustable to meet, each individual's needs. I think that's one of the core parts of our brand is that we, if you think about our mission statement, is individualizing sleep experiences for our customers, so they can have their best night's sleep and then be their best person possible. We're a health and wellness company. We're not just a mattress company. And then there's the sleep IQ is a number that represents the quality of the sleep that we had last night. And this is something that our beds give biofeedback, essentially through sensors in the bed, allow us to know how well we sleep, and then we can take a look at our lifestyle choices and other things that may be going on in our lives that help us adjust and get our best night's sleep.
Well, and I love the fact that you're not just selling beds, but you're really part of wellness. But let's kind of peel back. Why do you think you won the Supply Chains to Admire Award, and how do you feel about it?
Well, I think, we talked about health and wellness, and I think that where it starts is really our mission of our company. It's not just a supply chain award. It's really who we are as a business, and having a clear mission, having clear values that people really believe in has been, I think, one of our secret sauces to success in our business.
On that, too, I think, one thing, so the differentiation, the core of our focus is always nice. We have that true north. But the core of what we do is we focus on innovation that's there to deliver that mission and drive the growth. And so it's all built around that brand, that service to our customer, and that's really what we had to focus our supply chain remodel and rebuild and evolution around, was how do we do this to benefit ourselves and that customer?
I think that brand is really something that I want to just emphasize too. We are a vertically integrated company. We really do that very purposefully to control that brand and that brand experience. And we are a premium brand, and we need to make sure we're responding and taking care of the customer in a premium way. And everybody, top to bottom in this business really rallies around that mission around health and wellness, and really about supporting the brand in terms of the customer getting the best possible experience, which is really key in the supply chain in terms of making sure they get a good product, make sure they get it when they expect it. So it's really key to our brand.
So the other part, just to kind of bring it home, I mean, this is a part for me that I get to nerd out a little bit, but we partner a ton with the NFL. And just my point here is that we associate in the NFL, over 1,800 current NFL players sleep on a sleep number bed because they see it as a competitive advantage. And we had Hall of Famer Chris Carter, who was my childhood idol, that I even brought to the jersey and got it signed by him. But he talked about, for him, at at the peak, he was looking for anything that could differentiate. He was one of the first guys that did yoga to be able to expand his physical. And he goes, the next environment that he wishes he would have had when he was a player was sleep. He goes, it's the recovery, it's the way it helps you perform. And so even if you're, myself, Joe Schmo, that's off the street, sleep helps you. And so we wanted to find ways. And I think the core of what drives us is how do you bring that to more people as fast and as effective as possible.
Well, and let's talk about how that value translated to supply chain tactics, because you had a premium brand, you were very centered on, how you were going to deliver wellness, but how did that translate to the tactics that helped you to differentiate?
Great question. I think the thing that we're very customer focused, and within supply chain, how does that translate to what we do on a day-to-day basis? It's first and foremost quality. That's at the expectation of the customer that they're going to get exactly what they expected. When they went through the sales process in one of our stores. So that's been a huge focus for us. But that quality, it really it happens not only just when we build the bed, but it's the delivery process of getting it to our customers. And we're very vertically integrated. So we not only manufacture, but we distribute and actually bring it right into the customer's home. And so the quality of that whole delivery experience is really what we really focus on in supply chain. And we've applied a lot of lean principles to try to identify, how can we take out the waste in that process? And we do this thing called retail flow, where we want to make sure there's no disruption in that process. Those disruptions are waste. It could be a quality disruption. It could be a logistics disruption. So we've really tried to simplify our supply chain so that we can minimize those disruption points. And that's it's been a real big focus over the last number of years. I think part of the key to our success.
And just to expand a little bit, Laura, on the retail flow. So for us, that strictly means we build to the demand. In other words, we're not forcing inventory out into our network or to our distribution hubs unless there's a warranted demand signal, like customers order. So we build our customers' beds at the time they need them, when they need them. And it really allows us to be more flexible to accommodate any kind of change in that, and that we're not actually forcing our supply chain to get too far out in front of our customers where we're inflating inventory or we are using the capacity that we have to service a customer that doesn't want their bed for 3 weeks. We can do the bed that they need 4 days from now.
Well, and that flexibility and service is so key to the brand. When it comes down to it, though, is that postponement? Is that design of the network? And, what are the nuts and bolts? Remember, we're kind of supply chain geeky kind of folks. How do you do that?
Sure. How do we do that? I think, it is really trying to keep the inventory at its lowest common denominator as close to the customer as possible. So, to your point about postponement, it's really getting the components out into a network that we've designed where it's not only a warehousing, but it's also an assembly capability within those warehouses. So as the orders drop, they drop to our warehouses in the local regions, and that's when it gets a signal right to the assembly line there. We've designed a very unique process. So it's a mixed model, single piece flow line that the order can drop right to that line, and we can literally build that bed, within a very short period of time, that order and dropping onto that warehouse. And that way, we actually build the bed, and we actually build the delivery route exactly how the home delivery techs are going to be delivering that day. So let's say they've got 5 stops out in a certain region for that day. We actually build the beds in the order that the beds are going to be delivered. So it's very efficient, comes right off the line, goes right onto the home delivery truck, and goes out and gets delivered within that next day or so. So we've really integrated a lot of lean philosophies in how we design our network, where we put our warehouses, making sure we're never, in the vast majority of cases, never more than a day away from any part of the country where we've located our warehouses. And then within that warehouse, applied lean principles where we can be extremely flexible in our build things and build capabilities and be able to meet a lot of demand swings. We're in a retail business, so there's market promotion, sales that we have to expand, or we have to respond to very large peaks, and then there's there's slower periods as well. We've been able to design a line that can flex to those variations in demand.
So that's where we are. It was very scary when we started because we knew we wanted to be there, and we knew that was like where Tony was just describing is where we've been striving for honestly 3 years to get to. But it was scary as hell getting into that, saying, well, we're going to be able to build any bed off our line at any time without any changeover, or the users aren't going to have any issues, and we're going to have great quality at the output. So the one part I would try to get to is we had to do this through test, learn, and apply. In the lean principle, we call it the 7 ways. Let's build the 7 different styles so we can push our creativity and our thought process. And we did that with our team members. I mean, one of the first lines that we actually built in a warehouse, Tony and I were both there, that we had, you kind of always hear the joke, duct tape and baling wire, but we literally had duct tape on 2x4s creating this idea of an assembly line. Now, fast forward 3 years later, it's completely different, but we had to start at some point and then give ourselves, and more so give the teams the flexibility to test, to fail quickly, apply the learning, and get to a better point. And I think what's really exciting, Laura, is every time Tony and I go to different facilities, the line's always a little different. So now you've instilled this thinking that it's never in question. I can always try to change something, even if it's the screen is over here that I do my transaction in, or the team member starts with the bed at a different orientation. Whatever it is, you've actually empowered a team to go through continuous improvement without that scariness because we've made it okay.
Well, how did you do that? A lot of times people say the word supply chain and it's another function within a very functional organization, and they're not even clear on the brand. How did you do that? How did you design the organization and build the human capability to be able to have that kind of mindset?
It's a process. I think, we started our lean journey, and we're, by no means, it's a journey. You never really arrive, and we're definitely, still on that journey. But I think it's a process where, little by little we, both educate. We've got we brought on a number of people that are pretty adept at the nuts and bolts of lean, but there's the cultural aspects of lean, of empowering people and making sure that their voice is heard. And I think it's something that builds on itself. Is you start slow and trust people with different things, educate them more, and build. As soon as they see their successes, we celebrate their successes. We've got, within our plants, we've got different recognition programs where they're celebrating the ideas that come forth from the folks on the floor, or really anywhere within the organization. We have celebrations here every week on our major Kaizen events. So it's really, embedded in our culture to make sure that every idea is a good idea. Let's get it out there, explore it. We may not, adapt it, but everything's appreciated, and it's part of that thing that John had mentioned is kind of the test and learn. Let's try it. Let's adopt the best ones and go forward. And it continues to build on itself. It's been a fun journey.
But it took, as I said, Tony and I were there. We were actually part of the event. And one thing I would challenge any of the listeners on this, and really just anybody that's going through this business, is nobody's too big nor too small to be part of that event and that team. And that creates the cohesion and the comfort to actually go forth and try. It's valuing the team, and that could be your, executive, and it could be the line employee. And if you're putting them all at an equal place, failure's not as scary. And it's not as much that you're going to see that hesitation. No, that takes some time, and it takes the right, opportunity or environment to do it. But I think we struck some pretty good gold with some of these first bigger times where we said, we're just going to go try. And we celebrated the try itself, not just the output. Soon you get to actually celebrate the output of that. But it's the whole idea of not letting perfection get in the way of good, because you got to get good every day.
I love the concept of celebrating the try. I find so many people talk the concept, but the organization isn't willing to try because they only reward success. And people are deeply afraid of failure when they're very committed to a company. Did you experience any of that, or were they willing to come on the journey because you're so vested in lean?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a journey, and I think there's always there's a human thing that people don't want to fail as well, and regardless of the culture here, there's just people just don't want to fail, and I think we still struggle with that today, but I think we've advanced a lot. I think the other thing that we've had going for us as an organization at the management level, our management team is extremely supportive, both of trying things. They're not looking for the precision on everything. They're willing to try and take some good calculated bets and calculated investments. It's not that we've got total freedom, but they've got a lot of faith that we're trying to do the right things, and they've given us the financial and the organizational flexibility to try a few things. So it really starts at that level, and then it really floats all the way down through the organization. And again, it's a journey. I think we haven't reached nirvana by any sense, but I think it's continuing to build on itself.
Well, that's also exactly how my team and my organization was created. I took or was given a little bit of flexibility here to go into more of a digital space and try to disrupt some of the traditional thinking that we had. And fast forward 2 years later, it's a defined team and function that is helping multiple parts of our supply chain and even part of the enterprise think a little bit more digitally, innovatively, and disruptively. So there's examples of ways that it can even create an entire new team and function, not just necessarily the ability to challenge a singular process or a singular norm, but even more of the functional part. So there is some uniqueness, I think, to Sleep Number in the openness to try and go for something new, it's part of the core of our product. I mean, you didn't think we'd have beds would be that differentiated, but we created it at the CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. There's an entire wellness section just around sleep now. In 2014, we were the first company that ever brought a bed into an electronics show. People are thinking, what the heck's going on? These guys are crazy. But this was the idea of biometric scanning and how we can use that with the rest of your connected life. And we created and disrupted a whole new section of the market. And so now you go to that word at the main stage for it, of really being a voice for sleep and wellness, not just a showcase of our product.
Well, I'm hoping to have my new bed delivered to me soon. So, I'm looking for the conversation where I can report my numbers. Let's kind of wrap up here. If you had a couple of things you'd recommend for people to learn from what you've done, what advice would you have?
Yeah, I think, kind of let off with this, and I think it's just really starts with that clarity of mission and purpose. I think if you don't have that, it's very difficult to get people, rallied around a direction and really put their heart and soul into things. I think, we've definitely, over time, we've had our bumps along the road between ERP implementations and some supplier things, and what it all boils down to is that people's commitment to the brand, the product, and really believing that they're making a difference in people's lives. So to the degree that any business can find that unifying force, that's gonna get you through so many different difficulties and really advance your business in a strong way. I think you got to start there. I think when we go down to the lean principles, the culture, I think that's really been core to our success as well. And it's not just the lean tools; it's that cultural aspect of valuing the people and really valuing. Everybody's got valued and something to add to the business. And how do you get out, bring the best out of people? How do you allow them to thrive in the environment? And again, it's a journey, but I think we've really come a long way in that space.
Yeah, you've got to know who you are, know your strengths, value them, and leverage them, and do that daily. And I think the success comes pretty quickly.
Well, thank you so much for joining the show today, and happy 1st of November. I can't believe it's almost the end of the year. Every year we do the Supply Chains to Admire work. We start in March, and then I feverishly calculate the numbers in July and August. And John, I can't thank you enough for reaching out on LinkedIn, and you guys did a great presentation at the Supply Chain Summit, which is now on YouTube and climbing the charts. And I encourage all supply chain practitioners to listen to the story, because I think too few people know their brand, know their customer, and design the supply chain from the customer back. Most are still struggling with designing the supply chain from the supplier forward, and as the brand changes and the positioning changes, guess what? The supply chain doesn't work. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, and sleep well.
Thank you. I will, and I'm going to report my number when my bed gets delivered.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye now.